What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Good Game Reviews. Here to do another draft day review. My apologies. I'm gonna be looking down pretty much for most of the video because one, it's some information that I had captured on my phone, and I want to read that out to you. Also, there's information just flooding in right now. Of course, right after the draft ends, you have undrafted free agents, and that stuff just seems to come pouring in just right after everything ends. So I'm keeping my eye on that at the moment, but I'm gonna do my best to cover everything that happened in day 3 for the Patriots. Let's start off with the first pick of day 3. In the 4th round, the Patriots selected at 120 overall Ramondre Stevenson, running back out of Oklahoma. Now I'm not gonna lie. This pick kind of threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting running back probably somewhere in the 5th round, 5th to 6th. I wasn't expecting that they would go this route. I thought that 4th round would have been a good spot to grab maybe one of these receivers that have fallen down. But that didn't happen, so they went ahead and picked up Ramondre Stevenson. Let's go ahead and look at some of the. Let's just go ahead and look at the measurements first of all. 131. Now you might go online, you might see a lot of different weights for this guy. That's because his weight just seems to fluctuate a lot, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem or not. I don't know if we have another like a Eddie Lacy type of situation on our hands. Hopefully not, but from what I'm reading, this seems to be his weight, 131. So he's a really big guy. Obviously, he's not a guy that you're going to see just making all these different types of cuts and stuff through the field. Although he can do that, his game is more of just being like a power back, just pretty much trucking people, just outmanning other people. So that's good. That's pretty much going to be his game. His 40 was a 4.63, so not a fast guy. He's not going to be running down the field with guys trailing behind him. That's only if he gets the proper space, he can do that. But he's not going to be. He doesn't have breakaway speed. He's going to have to get a good hold. He's going to get out into space. That's what he has to do in order to have long runs. But he's not going to break away from people with that 4.6 speed. Had a broad jump of 9 feet 4 inches. Had a vertical of 31.5, 20-yard shuttle of 4.47, and a 3-cone of 7.02 seconds. Also a bench rep of 15 reps. So, some pretty just kind of meh numbers in terms of that. Nothing too special. That really just jumps out to you. However, we can go into some stats. Now, this is a pretty juicy stat that I like. He averaged 7.2 yards per carry. That's an average, not last year's numbers, but that's just the average of just his career at Oklahoma is 7.2. If you want to know individually, 2019 he averaged 8 yards per carry, and 2020 he averaged 6.6 yards per carry. So that's why the average comes out to 7.2. But that is something to look forward to. That's really good. That means that he doesn't go down easily. It's gonna take more than one guy to take him down. If there's only one guy against him, odds are that guy's not gonna he's not gonna survive that initial contact, because he's gonna pretty much just bruise him and keep on going until some more people come and take him down. That's his game. 2019 he had 515 yards, 6 touchdowns, and in 2020 he had 665 yards and 7 touchdowns. He only played 6 games in 2020, mind you, because he was suspended for a failed drug test. So back-to-back picks, both Oklahoma guys, and both guys only played 6 games because they were suspended due to failed drug tests. So doesn't really have anything to do with their ability to play. It's just failed drug tests. So take with that what you will. This guy also, he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just going to be out there running. He also adds a little dimension in the receiving game. As far as receiving yards, as far as receptions, he had 10 receptions in 2019, had 18 in 2020. In 2019, he had 87 yards, average 8.7. In 2020, he had 211 yards, average 11.7. So he's able to add something in that passing game. So besides being a bruising back, he's also able to catch out of the backfield, which is something that the Patriots are going to need if they're going to be moving on from guys like Rex Burkhead and potentially later on in the future guys like James White, who, next year he possibly won't be with the team. So, having a guy who can come in and contribute on both the ground and in the air, that's something to have. And also, James White isn't really that fast of a guy. He's not a 4.3 guy. He's not a 4.4 guy. So we don't necessarily need that breakaway speed. But for what he does, it's good. It's good. In the 5th round, the Patriots selected Cameron McGroin, linebacker out of Michigan. That was the only pick that we had in the 5th round. I had a feeling that the Patriots were going to go linebacker at some point in this draft. It wasn't too much of a big concern for me, the position, but I just felt that, they wanted, more depth in terms of linebacker, so I knew that they were going to take a dip at that position at some point. He weighed about 234, so pretty decent weight. He's 6'1". Tackles, he had 65 tackles in 2019, 9 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks with 1 pass defended and 1 forced fumble. 2020 he had 26 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 0.5 sacks, and that was pretty much it. He only played 5 games in 2020 because of a wrist injury, I believe. So once again, you're getting guys who aren't necessarily able to stay on the field. But I'm not knocking the pick. I'm not going to knock the pick. I just think, we're seeing a little bit of a trend here where, it's these guys who aren't able to really stay out there long, not completing the full season. Now the other 2 guys, those were dealing with, kind of like off the field, kind of, with the drugs and all that stuff. But this is more the body. So is there an injury concern that we have to worry about? Who knows? Hopefully not. But I believe this was a good pick for where they got him at in the 5th round. A couple people had him projected going a little bit earlier. He sunk down to the 5th round, sunk down to 177 overall. So kudos for the pick. We'll take it. I know a lot of guys were eyeing Moses out of Alabama. I feel that, people, excuse me, I just knocked my mic. People like this pick a little bit more, just based on his size and, just overall. So yeah, I like the pick. As far as 6th round goes, this was the Patriots. No, this wasn't the Patriots' only 6th round pick. But this was the first pick of the 6th round. It is 188th overall. Joshua Bledsoe, safety out of Missouri. Weighs 200 pounds, 6 foot even. Played a full season. So this is like the first guy that we're seeing in a while who has played like a full, just a full like career, just 4 years. We got from 2017 all the way down to 2020. His best season was in 2019. He had 49 overall tackles, 4 tackles for loss. He had 10 passes defended, fumble recovery, and a forced fumble. Overall, in his total career, he had 130 total tackles, 7.5 yards per loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, 18 passes defended, 3 fumble recoveries, 1 touchdown, 1 defensive touchdown, and 2 forced fumbles. So a good number of production, especially here in the 6th round. This is a good this for the pick, it's a pretty good pick. Um, if we could, uh, one, I'm kind of wondering exactly what was the exact reason. Maybe it was uh, certain areas of his game, maybe, but I don't see too much of a reason why he sunk so low into the sixth round. According to Joshua Bledsoe himself, he actually predicted, well, kind of predicted. I guess maybe he just guessed, but he had a feeling that he was going to be on the Patriots. So that's his words. He not exactly, but those are pretty much his words. I'm paraphrasing. He had an idea that the Patriots were going to pick him up. So maybe it was just fate. Um. Now I want to get into some of the strengths that I've read on here about them. Now here's the strengths that they have listed. You can go read these strengths on the NFL.com draft page, where they kind of just go over strengths and they go over rankings and things like that. So you can go check that out for yourself. But I'm gonna go ahead and read them out since I got them right in front of me. Strengths are muscular, strong, communicates well pre and post snap, plays with desired competitive nature on every snap, plays strength to jam and stall receivers release, has plenty of short area foot quickness, bodied up on Florida's Kadarius Toney on underneath routes, sticks his nose and during run support and won't back down. Got beat up by Kentucky's offensive line, but kept on coming. Pretty good job of hanging in against big blockers. Now, those are his strengths. His weaknesses are movement is choppy and insufficient at times. Tight hips show up in his man cover transitions. Gets crossed up by route runners from off coverage. Speed will lose him, and he struggles to close the distance. Below average high point attacker as deep safety. Burned for too many touchdowns. That's concerning. Lacks the length to be a consistent wrap-up tackler, and will get banged around and run support near the box. So, yeah. Those are I think the most concerning one is giving up too many touchdowns, being burned for too many touchdowns. Of course, we don't we don't want that from our members of the secondary, and hopefully maybe he's able to clean that up. Maybe he'll have better success in the league. But looking at that, that's his biggest concern. That's his biggest concern right now. So we'll just have to see what happens with him. We'll just have to see how he progresses. Let's see as far as the second sixth round pick goes. I know we had a second sixth round pick. William Sherman, picked at 197 overall. He was offensive tackle. Now they have him listed as a guard. When they called him out, he was called out as an offensive tackle, but a lot of people have him as a guard. I think it has more to do with just the length of his arms and things like that, and also his height. So he doesn't have the height of a traditional tackle, and maybe the length has something to do with it. But we'll have to see. Also, he comes from Colorado. Weighs 304, height is 6'3". Is projected as a guard in the next level. Now, the strengths for him are all right. Here's Sherman's strengths: loose hips and plus timing for workup blocks. Chops feet into block fit and rolls hips, accelerate feet through contact and drives from insteps, works his positioning wall off block, stays after it in phase 2, resets and repunches if he gets beat with the long arm, adequate short area slide quickness to mirror, gets into space in screen game. Weaknesses are
way too hurried out of stance, creating excessive oversets. Struggles to catch up and redirect inside counters. Upper body strength will need substantial improvement. Unable to prevent defenders from driving through his base block. Issues with body control can keep him in catch up mode throughout rep. Too much grab and hugging to shortcut the work needed. Caught up in excessive lunging and leaning at the top of his rush, at the top of the rush, needs to snap a stronger punch and keep feet mirroring. Inability to protect his edges. So there's a lot of weaknesses, good number of strengths, but as far as the pick goes, as far as the spot that he was selected in, I don't really have too much of a problem with it. I think I covered that they were also probably going to dip as far as offensive line goes. So as far as the depth is at offensive line goes, it's not really too much of a concern. I didn't cover it, excuse me, sorry. But as far as the depth goes at offensive line, I think we're pretty much shored up. Patriots already have one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line. Isaiah Wynn, Michael Winu, David Andrews, Shaq Mason, Trent Brown. It's a pretty set starting offensive line. They have some decent depth there, at least as far as like tackles go, with guys like Herron. So I'm pretty secure in this spot, but they wanted to go ahead and dip into it. They chose to dip into it in the 6th round. They got a guy who, for all the weaknesses we saw, he has equal parts as far as strengths go. So I'm okay with the pick. Like I said a little earlier before, wide receiver was a concern for me. So that brings us to the last pick of the NFL draft for the Patriots. Is the 7th round pick. It's the 242nd overall pick. Trey Nixon, wide receiver, UCF. He weighs 187 pounds. He's 6 feet. Now, if you go on the Draft Network, you will see that he's listed at 6 feet 2 inches. So I don't know exactly why they knocked off 2 inches or why the Draft Network probably added 2 inches on him. But we see this happen a lot when they're doing this. You're going from the pro days and you're looking at what the team has on their websites and you're looking at what scouts have on their websites. It's a lot of like fluctuation with the heights and stuff. It's weird, but it is what it is. And they had him weighing 180, so 7-pound difference, doesn't really matter. Here are some of the stats from his pro day: 4.44 40-yard dash, so pretty good speed. Somewhere around that Nelson Aguilar speed. Nelson Aguilar is kind of that mid 4.4 guy, so both of those guys kind of equal in terms of like speed. 1.57 second 10-yard split, 35.5 inch vertical, 10.5 broad jump, and a 6.81 3-cone time. So I like that. I like the cone time. I like the 40-yard dash. Broad jumps pretty cool, I guess. So yeah, I like those numbers. Now here's the concern. Yet another guy with an injury concern. Broken left collarbone in 2020. So if you go and look up his numbers, you'll see that 2020 is pretty much a blank. That's because of the broken collarbone. He missed all of that season. If you want to look at some numbers, here's 2018 and 2019. In 2018, he had 40 receptions, 562 yards, averaged 14.1 yards per reception, and 4 touchdowns. In 2019, as a junior, he had 49 receptions, 830 yards, 16.9 yards per reception, and 7 touchdowns. Now, that's something that catches your eye. You'd like to see that, especially the amount of yards that he averaged per reception. That's a pretty big deal. You want to see that. So obviously, He is a deep threat. You look at the speed. You can tell by the 40 time automatically. You look at that. You can tell he's a down the field type of guy. He's a vertical threat. That's his game. Now the issues that they had on him, or at least the ones I noticed, were hands. Inconsistent hands was something that he was flagged for. And that does kind of concern me as far as like just the wide receiver position goes. I would like my guys to have consistent hands. So here's his strengths. I'll go over his strengths first. Active hands and sudden feet for press release. Stair steps defender off route. Crisp short area footwork on intermediate intermediate routes. Puts his head down and drives hard into go routes. Route running talent to uncover on all three levels. Excellent stop and return on curls. Works back to his quarterback. All right, now here's his weaknesses. Shoulder injury took him out of action for most of last fall. Needs to better disguise in breaking routes. Can improve with foot acclimation near sideline. Hands do not inspire confidence from quarterback. Ball tracking is labored and inconsistent. Has trouble battling against sides on deep balls and almost no experience on special teams. The last one I can kind of take and leave. I mean, you like to have a guy who's experienced on special teams, especially if you're getting a guy so deep into the draft. You at least like him to be competent in terms of special team, just in case he wants to find some way to carve a role out for himself. But other than that, like I look at everything else. I look at the positives, and I can kind of forgive that. The only thing that kind of concerns me is is the hands thing. That's really what concerns me, is the hands thing. Not having consistent hands and not getting the trust from his quarterback. You need that. You need that. So that's really my only concern on that. As far as just overall thoughts of this whole draft, I really did like the beginning of it. A lot of things to love. A lot of good picks. They was able to trade up, able to get some guys at certain spots that you would have thought got picked higher. I mean, yeah. But kind of like later on in like the last half of the draft, I would have liked to see them like make a push at wide receiver, maybe somewhere in the 4th round or the 5th round. So that's my thoughts. Excuse me. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Now we still have undrafted free agents. They got some spots. They can go and get receivers at those positions. So we can still possibly see some guys come in, and we know the Patriots' history with undrafted free agents. They can any one of those guys can make the 53-man roster. So really doesn't matter. But that's pretty much it that I have for day 3. Once again, it's a pleasure always doing this. Always love watching the draft. Always love looking at the different picks, not just for my team, but just for just the NFL overall. Can't wait for next year's draft. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. More content will be coming out later on. Like I said, still got these undrafted free agents to look at. Still got certain moves that the team can make. We're going to be looking at all of that. So just stay tuned for it. Until next time, I'm out.